So let's jump to the backside. This is video 2 explaining the quiz. Number 21, 16 is 7 plus 3 times a number. Okay, so let's write that down. 16 is means equal 7 plus 3 times a number. 3 times a number. That's your equation. All you got to do is solve it to find the answer. So if you subtract 7, you're going to get 9 equals 3x. 9 equals 3x. Let's finish this off by dividing both sides by 3, which means what? X equals 3. So the real fun ones come on numbers 22, 23. Those are the consecutive numbers ones. And there's consecutive integers, and there's consecutive even integers, consecutive odd integers. Okay, so let's understand once again the word consecutive. It means right next to, following, right? Without skipping any numbers. So if I'm talking about consecutive integers whose sum is 35, well, I'm talking about two numbers that are right next to each other. Okay? So what does the word sum mean? Add. So we're going to be adding two numbers, and the answer has to be 35. But not only that, these two numbers right here, they have to be consecutive numbers. Give me an example of consecutive numbers.
1, 2, 3.
1 and 2, right? Or 7 and 8, or 9 and 10, especially if we're talking about two of them, right? So if I say 4 and 5, 4 and 5 are consecutive integers, are consecutive numbers. But if I add 4 plus 5 together, does it give me 35? No way. 4 plus 5 is 9. So we're way off. So I want to teach you how to do this logically, okay? Using your brain instead of creating an equation. So what number with the very next number added together will give you 35? How about 15 and 16? 15 plus 16, no, if I add those together, it gives me 31. How about 16 and 17? Nope, that doesn't give me 35. How about 17 and 18? 17 and 18, those are consecutive. If you add them together, it really does give you 35. So you could actually solve it without creating an equation, just guessing and checking. 17 plus 18 gives you 35. Those are the two consecutive numbers whose sum is 35. Do you get it? Okay, so on Friday's test, you're going to see the same exact question, but maybe instead of sum is 35, maybe I say sum is 51, right? Or let's say 101. What if the sum was 101? Well, what would the two numbers be? It would be 50 and 51. 50 plus 51 would give you 101. So just expect this number to change, but if you understand it, you'll be able to get it. And that's just guessing and checking. What you're supposed to actually be doing, and you don't have to do this if you could guess and check it. You could find your answer that way. But if you wanted to, you could say, I don't know my first number, but I know I'm going to add it to that same number but plus 1, because that would be the next consecutive number. And the answer should be 35, as it says up there, is 35. So if you have this equation, now you could actually combine x plus x, and that will be 2x. X plus x, that'll be 2x, plus 1 equals 35. And if you solve that equation, you will get x equals 17. Now, you don't have to bother with the equation. I mean, it would be nice if you could, but at the very least, you got to be able to think two numbers that are right next to each other that add together to give me 35, 17, and 18. Make sense? Okay, number 23. Find 3 consecutive numbers. Now, what does that mean? 4, 5, 6, 10, 11, 12, 21, 22, 23, right? Those are all consecutive numbers, right? So how about this? If I say whose sum, okay, I know I'm adding, so I want to add this number plus this number plus this number, and it should give me a total of 36. That's why it says is 36. Now, you could just start guessing and checking. That works, and I'll accept that on Friday's test. So if you say, give me any number you want. 11. So if I say 11 plus, and if I go for the 3 consecutive numbers from 11, I have 11, 12, and 13. If I add those up, it really does give me 36. So you're able to find the answer just by thinking about it that way. Okay? If 11 plus 12 plus 13 doesn't give me 36, then I need to pick a different set of 3 consecutive numbers. Now, the way you're supposed to do it, so we already know the answer is 11, 12, and 13. The way you're supposed to do it is to say x What's the next number after x if you don't know what x is?
X plus 1.
X plus 1. And what would the next number after that be?
Two.
X plus 2. Those are consecutive, right? So if you do go x plus x plus x, that'll be a total of 3 x's. And then this plus 1 and plus 2, that's plus 3, equals 36. And if you solve this guy by subtracting 3 and subtracting 3, you will get 3x, this cancels, equals 33, which means that x equals 11. So if you know that your first number is 11, the next number has to be 12, and the next number has to be 13. And those are the 3 consecutive numbers that if you sum them up, if you add them up, it will give you the answer 36. Let's move on to the next one, which is a little more interesting because it says 2 consecutive even integers. Okay, so we need to understand the vocab right there. Consecutive right next to, but we're talking about even numbers. Okay, so give me 2 consecutive even numbers. Anyone? Just any 2 numbers.
2, 4.
2 and 4, right? 2 and 6 would not be consecutive. Those are separate. But you're talking about even numbers. 2, 4, 6, 8, all those are consecutive when they're right next to each other. So if I want 2 consecutive numbers whose sum, so I'm going to be adding 2 numbers, and the answer is 126. Okay? So if you did say, oh, well, maybe this first number is 2 and this next number is 4, that's incorrect because 2 plus 4 is 6, not 126, right? So you know they have to be pretty big numbers. So you could keep guessing and checking till you find the answer, right? So it would be something like 62 plus 64, right? That's the answer right there. 62 plus 64 is 126. But the way you're supposed to do it would be, you don't know your first number, but if you don't know your first number, that's even. The next even number is not going to be x plus 1, but it's actually going to be x plus 2. That's what it would be. Whether it's even or odd, you're going to have to skip 2 spaces. Let me see if this helps you out a little. So for example, I made a list of numbers 1 through 10. I underlined the even ones. Now, we don't know what our even number is, but let's just pick one. Let's say that your even number happens to be 4. So we're going to call that x. If I wanted to get to the next even number, am I going to really go 4 plus 1? No, that's going to give me to the odd, right? So if I'm on the even, I want to get to the 2 spaces away, this next one's going to be called x plus 2. So you put an x plus 2 up here. And this third one, if you wanted to, would be x plus 4. Does that make sense? So that's how we get to skipping, not like right next to each other, but right next to each other that are even, or right next to each other that are odd. You're actually going to have a plus 2 on the x, an x plus 2, and an x plus 4. Because see, x plus 2, x plus 4, that'll get you through any even number or any odd number. So like, let's say it wasn't 4. Let's say x was 14. All right, well, if x is 14 and you want to get to 16, then you're going to need an x plus 2. That's why the x and the x plus 2 always work on even or odd numbers. So anyways, back to this question. You have x plus 2. Those are 2 even numbers that are added together. That'll give you 126. So if you work this out algebraically, you're going to have 2x plus 2 equals 126. And if you subtract 2 on both sides, you're going to have 2x equals 124, which means that x, if you divide by 2 on both sides, you'll get 62, which means that your first number is 62, which means that your second number will be 64. So the 2 consecutive even numbers are 62 and 64. Again, you could have figured that out by just guessing and checking. Okay? Moving on to 25. So all of these will be on the test Friday again. All of these are going to be on the test Friday again. Okay? The only difference is this number over here is going to change, the 117. Maybe it's not 117. It's going to be a different number. Okay? So you could do it logically. Here's logically. Okay? It says 3 consecutive odd integers whose sum is 117. So you're going to add 3 numbers. This number plus this number plus this number, and the answer is going to be 117. So you can do it by guessing and checking. Pick some odd numbers that work. Like if you say, okay, 31 plus 33, those are odd numbers. 31 plus 33, what's the next consecutive odd number? 31, 33, what? 35. So if I do go 31, 33, and 35, does it add up to be 117? It does not, right? So we need to figure out, you could keep guessing and checking till you get the right answer, or you could do what you're supposed to do. What you're supposed to do is put an X on the first odd number. What would the next odd number be if the first one's X?
X plus 1.
X plus 2.
Oh.
Because remember, odds
Yeah.
is like skipping the even ones. So yeah, if it was 5, you need to get to 7, and 5 plus 1 is not 7. It would be 5 plus 2 is 7. And then from 7, you need to get to 9, so it would be 5 plus 4. So on the first one is X, on the first one's X, the second one's X plus 2, the next one would be X plus 4. X plus 4. That's the way you're supposed to do it. Again, you could guess and check. So let's add up the X plus X plus X. It's a total of 3 X's. So you have 3 X's, and you also have a plus 2 right here and a plus 4. That's plus 6. The answer is 117. If you go through and solve this thing by subtracting 6, you're going to get 3X equals 111. And if you divide both sides by 3, so if you divide it by 3 correctly, you will get X equals 37. So we have 37 as your first odd number. So the next odd number would be 39, and the next odd number would be 41. Those are your 3 consecutive odd numbers that work for this one. So once again, guys, every single one of these questions is going to be on the first 19 questions. Now, okay, maybe I shouldn't say every single one, but 19 of these 25 are going to be on Friday's test. I'm just going to change one number on each. So maybe instead of 117 on this one, maybe it's like 121 or something like that. Okay? So you need to be able to do all these just with one different number. Down here, this was just extra credit. Might as well go over it. I believe we will have some type of extra credit on Friday's test as well. So the equation has an equal sign in it. Actually, that was a typo on my part. It shouldn't even have the word the. An equation has an equal sign in it. True or false? That's true. You can simplify an expression, but you can't simplify an equation. That's false. You could simplify an equation. Let me show you an example of that. Let's say you have the equation 2x plus 3 minus 1x equals 5. Let's say you had that. Okay? On the left side, there's actually combining like terms that you could do. So you could actually simplify it. Simplify means distributed property or combining like terms. And there is combining like terms that you could do on the left side. 2x minus 1, that's just x. So here's my simplified equation. You could rewrite it, but by doing some simplification. So you could simplify an equation just like you simplify an expression. So part C, you can only solve equations, you can't solve expressions. That is true because expressions could only be simplified. Moving on. 5 plus negative 2, that's 3. The answer is not negative 3, so that one's not it. Negative 2 plus 1, that's negative 1. That's not negative 3, so that one can't be it. Move on to the next one. Negative 1 times negative 3, that's positive 3. That's not positive 3, so that one can't be it. And so it must be that last one, right? This one right here? No, it's not, because if you change the minus minus to plus plus, you still end up with a positive 2, and we want a negative 3, so it can't be D either. So the only answer that works is E, none of the above. Number 29, it says negative 5 does not belong to which group? Negative 5, as specific as possible, that would be an integer. Positive, negative numbers that are nice are integers. If it's a fraction or a decimal, it's rational. So which one does it not belong to? It is an integer. It is rational because it makes sense, right? Irrational numbers are those that don't make sense, those crazy decimals like pi, right? Or like the square root of 7. Those are all crazy decimals. But an integer is a negative number, so it is an integer, and it's also rational because it makes sense, but it's not a whole number. Whole numbers are 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, no negatives involved. So it cannot be A. It cannot be A. And since it says does not belong, then that's our answer. It does not belong to A. It does not belong to all of them. That didn't work.